I'm with Miriam, who's a UK journalist visiting Jersey. You're with a film production company based in London, Manchester. Journalism. It's all gone a bit sad, hasn't it, in the UK? There's legislation pending. What do you think of it all?
I think some important questions are being raised about the independence of the media, the barriers that they sometimes cross that are intrusive into people's lives, but at the same time the role that they play in scrutinising government.
More than government, though, isn't it? It's lots of activities in life need to be investigated, and people don't like it when their lives are investigated, do they?
That's true, they don't. Which people are you talking about?
Anybody, any members of the public suddenly find themselves having a camera thrust in their face.
Yeah.
Why don't they like it? What have they got to hide? This is the kind of questions they ask. But people don't like being asked, do they?
No, they don't. Not always, no. I think intrusions into people's family and personal lives are very difficult, and when people say it's in the public interest, it often isn't. So I think the question of accountability is difficult, really.
Journalists have been crossing the line, haven't they, for years, breaking the rules, doing infamous things.
They have done that. They've also broken stories which had they not been brave enough to do, we would never have found out about. So journalists have to be responsible and accountable.
We had a visit a few years ago from the BBC, a UK team, found up a Jersey boy who was working for the BBC, but he used a concealed camera to take interviews in a bank and got quite an extraordinary story about corruption in a bank, but he could have only got it using a concealed camera. Would you do that?
If I thought the story was important enough, I would get somebody legal to check what I was doing, but yes, I would use hidden cameras to expose something I thought was immoral. The
News of the World was closed down because it had extreme cases of that sort of behaviour. Where does it stop?
That's a good question. I don't know where it stops, actually. I think the government is right to scrutinise the press, just as the press scrutinise the government. I think an inquiry is important as long as it asks the right questions and comes out with a result that gives enough freedom to inquire, but it is not running riot.
All professions are under scrutiny all the time, and they're always failing to uphold the standards which they're supposed to uphold. Journalists are no different, are they?
That's true, we all fail.
The legislation which is pending in the UK, it hasn't been fully developed, fully announced. What do you know of it so far?
Not enough. I wish I knew more before you asked me this.
Basically, you're not in favour or against, or what's your basic feeling about legislation against the press? Do you feel that is a curtailment?
Yes, I do. I think any punitive legislation against the press is a bad thing, because Jersey may only have one particular... Well, Jersey may not have independent media, but we are under the illusion if we think we have independent media in the UK. We have some independence, but at the top of most newspapers are corporate interests.
Huge scandals have been revealed, haven't they, by the press in the UK?
Yep, they've done a great job. The press get a battering, but they do a very good job.
You're in this little island where the press is somewhat different.
I am. It's a bit worrying, to be honest.
Are you shocked?
Yes, I am. I'm shocked by the lack of questions. I wish people asked more questions. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
But these are the same colleagues, journalists, who could equally next week be operating in the UK. Will they change their spots if they go and work in the UK, do you think?
Well, I hope so.
If you came here, would you be the same as a local journalist? Not asking questions?
No, I couldn't. It's in my nature.
Your company, what sort of work do you do?
I'm freelance, so I work for different organisations. Depending on the nature of the job, I do different documentaries.
The financing of the media generally is becoming more difficult. Advertising is the key to it. Obviously, advertising and free press don't happily go together. Is your company able to survive financially?
I've had difficulty. I fund documentaries I care about with money from more corporate projects. Sometimes I try to make sure there isn't a clash of interest in that.
This little camera I've got, thousands and thousands of these little cameras circulating now, bloggers like myself, challenging the status quo as far as journalism is concerned. What do you think of that?
I think it's fantastic. Citizen journalism. More power to you.
But you say more power, but is there any limit to what that power should be?
As long as you're accountable and responsible to the people you film, and to finding out the truth in terms of checking your sources, then... Yeah.
But accountable by regulation?
Regulation by who?
Well, the press, the accredited press as they like to call them here, are, we suspect, going to be more regulated than they have. There have been things like the Press Council, and obviously totally ineffective in the past. The television, radio have all got bodies which supposedly regulate them. Obviously they've absolutely failed so to do, as far as the outrages that have taken place. A similar sort of thing, could it be applied? Would you want it applied to bloggers?
I think blogging is a kind of Wild West. I think citizen journalism is a Wild West, and I think that people are negotiating as they go along. So the internet frightens people in terms of regulating it. There will come some regulation, whether it's effective or not, we'll see.
Have you ever been a blogger?
No. I've got enough to do with broadcasting. I'm actually not, I write for documentary, I'm not a journalist in that sense, I'm broadcasting.
How do you choose your stories? You've chosen to be in Jersey this week. Where's the agenda? Who sets your agenda?
I'm afraid my employer sets the agenda on this occasion.
Do you ever say, I'm not going to do that story because it's unethical, or it's...
Yes, I have done.
You have done.
It's very, yeah, it varies. And my aim would be to tell stories I'm interested in. I also need to pay my bills, as most people do, so it's...
The officials you've met in Jersey, the government people, have you found them easy to approach or difficult?
The Constable of St Helier was very approachable, and the other constables, I should say, that we approached agreed to us coming. We haven't actually engaged with anyone in the government, but we found the States of Jersey Police to be collaborative. Duncan
Campbell, who used to be quite a brave journalist some years ago, I don't know what's happened to him now, he used to say if you interview people and they give you information, you're not being an investigative journalist. The information they give you willingly is not the information you want. You want the information they won't tell you. Do you believe that's true?
Yeah, I think it's very true.
I'm asking you questions now. Are you telling me what you want me to hear, or have I got to some way? This is the question. How on earth do I get you to tell me things you don't want to tell me? How do journalists do that?
I think it takes varying degrees of persuasiveness and negotiation and subtlety, and also hoping that people will be honest with you. It depends what the subject you're doing is. If people have got something they're afraid of and they won't give it to you, they won't tell you, but you have to find ways of getting to that truth.
Why do people have secrets? What's the problem with people that they won't tell journalists, the general public, what they're up to? This is a finance centre. Why is it such a secrecy jurisdiction? What have people got to hide? It's the great question, isn't it? Why are people so reluctant to tell everybody what they're doing?
There's a lot going on, and it's mainly money. Money is at stake. People don't want to lose what they have for the sake of transparency.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you for your time.